This is Matt Cox, and this is The Grind. Today's video is going to be about me trying to put together kind of like a true crime podcast where I interview other criminals and talk about their stories. What a lot of people don't realize is that there's an issue with me being able to put together like a true crime podcast. Part of the issue is that I'm currently on federal probation. So that's one issue. Now, what that means is that I'm not allowed to associate with other felons. Now, obviously, if the guy that, if the barista at Starbucks is a felon and I see him every day and say, hey, what's up? And, obviously they're not going to, they're not going to violate me for that. If there's some guy who's at the gym that I see all the time, what's up? How's it going? I have a conversation with them or something. They're not going to violate me for that. But, they're more concerned about constant interaction with someone who's a felon. And so part of the issue is putting together a true crime podcast where I interview guys. I'm going to have to kind of interact with them to a degree. And, so that's a little bit more than just, some guy serving me coffee or somebody that I know at the gym has a felony, but I'm talking to him for a little bit. That's a little bit different than that. So I would have to get my probation officer to say, okay, so you want to talk to this guy and you want to do his story, and then, right, I want to do the guy, I want to talk to the guy, I want to talk to him for about his story, and then I want to interview him, and then I want to put the podcast out. So I don't think she would have a huge problem with that. So I think that's possible. In the past I was like, I don't know, then I got to contact her all the time. Things are a little different now, because the first year I got out of the halfway house, I was really being scrutinized for the first year. I was being given, I don't have a drug case or a drug problem for that matter. But I was getting piss tested a minimum of once a month, sometimes twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month, because if I traveled, as soon as I got back, she would say, come straight to the probation office. And then I'd show up and she'd say, you got to do a urine test. And I have to do one. And then if she showed up at my house, she would say, hey, what's up? Are you, and I would always be like, hey, where are you? I'd go, oh, she'd call me and say, where are you? And I'd say, I'm at home. She'd go, great, I'm going to be there in 30 minutes. She'd show up and say, oh, by the way, I need a urine test. Plus, I was on this system where you called in every day, and if your you have a color. So if your color was, let's say, green, and you called this phone number and they said, hey, today's red, you'd go, okay, you'd hang up, no big deal. If it said, hey, today's green, then you had to show up, I think it was the next day by like 5 o'clock or something, and take a urine test. And it was in Brandon. It's like an hour drive for me. And what if you have a job? They're like tough. And plus, I had these random. She had to stop by my house. My house. I don't have a house. I live in someone's spare room. She had to stop by my place of residence once a month to see me. They look through all of my bank accounts every month. I have to do an annual report. What else? Obviously, I have to pay restitution. It was very restrictive. Like, you can't leave. Like, I can't. If I want to go to Miami, I can't just go to Miami. I have to get it approved. Why? Why are you going? If you said, oh, I'm going there on vacation, they would be like, yeah, no, you're not. You're not going on vacation. No. If you say I'm going there for work, then they have to call. For instance, in my case, if I said I'm going to Miami to do a podcast, she would say, okay, well, I need a letter from them. I need 2 weeks notice. I have to call them. I have to verify the podcast. Like, she goes through this whole thing just to get permission to let me go. And I've been all over the place. Like, I went to Puerto Rico. I went to California. Been to California twice since I've been on probation, or since I was released from the halfway house. I went to Philadelphia. I've been to Miami. I went to Texas. I've been all over, but it was every single time it was a real issue. So it's an issue for me to be able to move around. It's an issue for me to do the things that most people take for granted. my car was falling apart, and I said, hey, I need a new car. And she goes, no, you can't get a new car. I was like, what do you mean I can't get a new car? She's like, no, you'll have to fix your car. I'm like, it's falling apart. I would start naming everything, and she's like, no, you can't. No. The answer is no. I mean, it was just a constant struggle. And she's working within the confines of what's called my judgment and commitment that governs me while I'm on supervised release. With that said, my probation officer is, she's strict, but she's strict but fair. I mean, so far she's been fair. There've been one or two things where I was like, come on, you could let me slide. And she's like, no. But she's fair. So, and she's told me a couple times, she's like, look, I'm rooting for you, but you have to abide by this document. However, I think she will let me, interview other criminals for a podcast. I think that's possible. There have been times where she's made exceptions to allow me to be around other people that have felons on a very temporary basis. And if I interviewed some guy that I'm going to be around for an hour or two and I'm going to on camera, I think she would be okay with that. I haven't bounced it off her yet, but I'm going to, and I don't think it's going to be an issue. If it is, I'll let you know. The other thing is, where I'm currently living, it's tight. I mean, I can't even show you the bedroom I'm living in. It's that bad. Like, you see the setup I have right now, and it probably looks like, oh wow, he's got plenty of space. Yeah, he's fine. He's in a studio somewhere, or he's in his, he's in his office or his den. I'm in the corner of my room, which I painted the corner, the two walls I painted this like blood red or whatever you want to call this color. So I painted it like that. I've got my desk. Like, if the camera pans a few inches one way or the other, you either see my dresser and some canvases, or you see the window. It's tight. I have to climb over my bed 20, 30 times a day because my desk is wedged up against my bed. There's a huge dresser. There's a huge armoire. There's furniture in here. I paint on a wall on the other side of my bed, so I have to climb over my bed to get to where I paint. I have to climb over my bed to get to the walk-in closet. I mean, it's tight in here. So I don't really have a place where I could sit down with someone and do a podcast. I can't do a podcast in this room. It's so tight. Plus, I only have one camera. So I've got to get a couple more cameras. I have to get the mics. I have to get all the equipment. So what I'm doing to kind of put that production together is I'm getting the equipment, and I'm going to move to an apartment where I can paint and I can run let's call it a studio, like a YouTube studio, let's say, to do all my YouTube stuff in the apartment where I'll have enough room. Also, I'd like to be closer to the chick that I'm dating, so that means that I have to basically move from the area I'm in, which is about 30 to 40 minutes from where my mom lives, and I have to move, so I'm going to move it's basically where I want to move, it's a 50-minute drive from where my mom is. But I won't have to drive to go see my girlfriend anymore because it's right next to her house. And I'm assuming at some point she'll be approved through probation to move in with me. It's like everything's up in the air, but the truth is that I'm in a tight spot, and I'm not able to do the things that I want to do where I currently am. So I'm thinking I'm probably in 2 or 3 weeks going to rent an apartment and try and set all of that up. And that's really where I am. And it's like, I see people leave these comments that are, you need to do this, you need to do that, bro. All you got to do is this. It's not that easy. You don't realize the constraints that I have and that I'm trying to work within. I'm trying to write, I'm trying to paint. I could go out and get a regular job, but if I was working 40 or 50 hours a week, I'm not sure when I will be able to do the other things that I want to do. And look, I just got back from California. I met with multiple producers. I had a a Zoom meeting today with a couple of producers for to do a true crime podcast where I would actually be doing my stories. It would be my story kind of interwoven with all of the stories that I've written over the course of several seasons. Maybe that works out. Maybe that's something I end up doing in the next few months or 6 months or however long it takes. It takes Hollywood forever to do anything. So that may happen eventually, but I'm not banking on that. I'm certainly not gonna kick back and wait for that to happen. In the meantime, I need to do other things that help move my agenda forward, and that's what I'm trying to do. Like I said, I went to California. I did 4 podcasts. I've got a podcast that I'm doing on Thursday and Friday. You know, I'm going to start trying to do podcasts. You know, I'm not going to do, try and do, 10 a month, but I'm going to do several a month. And I think that also helps me. I think it puts me out there. I think it saturates the YouTube algorithm with Matt Cox, which is probably not a good thing. But I also think it helps people buy my books. Buying my books helps me pay my bills. I don't make a lot of money, but it helps. Anything helps. And I'm starting to kind of figure out the YouTube thing. If I had 500,000 subscribers, I could probably make easily $20,000 to $40,000 a month. Even if you had a bad month, you're going to make about $10,000. I'm trying to move towards that, but presently I don't have enough subscribers to just do YouTube. But regardless, I need to get out of the place I'm at, get into a situation where I can start producing more content and better content, and content that I believe will reach a larger audience and help get me more and more subscribers. And that's like my goal. That's what I'm working toward. The problem is, because of COVID, I started getting complacent. Like I realized I started blaming things on COVID. Like I started saying, oh, well, because of COVID this and because of COVID this. And yeah, a lot of things fell apart because of COVID. But you know what? COVID isn't stopping me from getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Now I'm getting up at like 5:30 or 6. I'm laying in bed for an hour talking myself through depression and into just getting out of bed. And the truth is I should be getting up, because I started because the gym was closed, but the gym's open now. So now I'm wandering into the gym at 7 or 8 o'clock. And that's ridiculous. I was getting up at 5, until COVID, I was getting up at 5, and then my alarm didn't even have to go off. I woke up before my alarm. I'd lay in bed for a couple of minutes and talk to myself and convince myself to get out of bed. I mean, just depression, just when I wake up in the morning, I'm so depressed. Like right now, it's night, and it's not night. What time is it? Yeah, it's 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock, and I feel pretty good. But in the morning, whoa, it's bad. So I lay in bed and for 10 or, I used to lay in bed for 5 minutes and talk myself into just getting out of bed and getting some coffee. And now I'm waking up at 5:30 or 6 and laying in bed for an hour. And that has nothing to do with COVID. That's just becoming complacent or laziness or lack of motivation. I feel like I'm at a place where I can start pushing forward with the tools that I currently have. I'm just a little bit cramped here, and I got to get out of this space. But I can see where I could start making some money on YouTube and painting and writing, and maybe these things will start to develop. And I'm pushing forward on meeting with producers and doing those things. It's definitely something that I'm working on. And I just need to I need to start pushing and hold myself accountable to waking up early and not laying in bed. I mean, I need to stop doing that. And so, that's where I'm at. I need to get a place. I need to start a podcast. I need to talk to my probation officer, and I need to make this happen. Like, I need to make it happen as soon as possible. And yeah, I'll video the whole thing, and I'll do like a video of it. Maybe that would be cool. I don't know. Do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell, share the video with some of your friends, leave a comment, Comments help. I think I try and answer as many comments as I can. Sometimes it gets like overwhelming, and then a lot of people's like, "Hey, you're doing great," and it's like, I feel like I want to answer those people and be like, "Oh man, I really appreciate that," but there's so many of them. I mean, I think that's pretty much where I'm at. See ya.